All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started then. Thank you guys so much for joining our webinar today. We're going to be talking about how you can set your less annoying CRM account up to work with your real estate business. We have a template for the real estate industry already, and this webinar will be us going through that specific template. Hopefully, most of you in the real estate industry already have this template, but I'm going to link it to our chat section right now. And once the webinar is over, you're welcome to sign up for a trial with us through that link to get the template. And if you're already on the trial account with us, or if you're already a paid user with us and you want this template applied, just email us after this webinar and we can apply this template to your account. But first of all, let's just kind of get introductions out of the way. My name is Eunice, and I'm a CRM coach here at Less Annoying CRM. I've helped hundreds of businesses get their CRM accounts set up, and I also do a bit of sales work for our team here. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to go ahead and let me know. I'm joined today by my colleague Kelly, who's also a CRM coach, and she's going to be around to field questions as we go through the webinar. So don't hesitate to reach out about that. We want this webinar to be informative and interactive for everyone here. So if at any point you have questions, just send it in the form of a chat or a question on the right side of your screen. So I've already posted in the chat section there. You can just post it on the right-hand side. But on the top right corner, you should see a little toggle for questions. That is our platform where you can enter in any question that you have. We're going to keep track of all of these questions to make sure we have time to tackle them. So feel free to send any questions as they pop into your head. You'll see a list of questions already in that section if someone else has posted a question. And if someone else's question is the same as yours, just click on the up arrow to the right of that question, and that lets us know that more than one person has that same question. It bumps it up on the priority list for us to tackle. Of course, if your question is not on that list, just click on Ask a New Question and let us know. Just to get the basics out of the way, let's quickly talk about what a CRM is. A CRM stands for Customer Relationship Manager, and it is just here to help you keep track of your relationships with your prospects, your leads, your clients, your vendors, anyone that you work with. It helps you track your relationship with all of these people through detailed notes and logs. It allows you to set up follow-up reminders so that you always know when you need to reach out to someone. So if you've ever been on your way to a meeting and you can't remember some detail about the person you're meeting, this is what a CRM is going to prevent. By keeping all of your relationships with your contacts stored in an easy to use interface, Less Annoying CRM can help make sure you never miss another follow up. For this particular webinar, though, we're going to focus on three particular areas. First off, how to set up your database now that you're working with buyers, sellers, properties, other realtors, and so on. Second of all, how to use these custom buyer and seller lead pipelines that we have in this real estate template to track the sale and purchase processes, as well as how you can connect your buyers to your sellers by generating reports. And finally, last of all, we're just going to talk about some additional customization ideas that you could use. The template is a great launching platform, but there can be more ways for you to tweak it to get what you need. And we can run through some of these ideas on what you can do. So first off, when it comes to creating a database, the first thing to remember, the biggest thing to remember when setting up your database in the CRM is that the CRM is contact and company centric. Everything in the CRM software attaches either to a contact or a company. And depending on the type of folks that you work with, you may be creating more contacts or more companies in the CRM, but they can all be linked up together via the CRM's conventional contact company link or through the relationship tool. So let's just take a quick look at a contact record in this real estate template then. Let me jump over to a nice little account that I've got pulled up here. So let's imagine here that I am a conventional B2C residential real estate business. I have a contact that I want to add to the CRM. She's approached me and she is a seller. So I'm going to add her into the system and I'm going to click on add a new contact on the top right corner of the screen. As always, if you have a spreadsheet of existing contacts or you just purchase a lead list, anything like that, you can always import that into the system by going to settings and then import contacts. But once I hit on add a new contact in the top right corner, I can just fill in some information about someone. So let's say we've got Jane Johnson. And I'm going to say jane@gmail.com. And she's in St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm going to give her a nice St. Louis number as well. That's all good. If I had more details about Jane, her physical address, her birthday, I can open up all of these fields to enter more data about her. And you want to keep in mind that this information about this contact here is about Jane as a person. It's about Jane as your seller. So in this case, I'm going to put in her home address. Let's say it is 124 like that, in St. Louis, Missouri, 63425, something like that. So this here is her own home address. This is not about the property she's looking to sell. This is her own home address. So once I filled in what I know about her, I can go ahead and just click Create Contact on the bottom left corner. So on her contact record, this page that we're looking at here, every person that you work with in the CRM, every seller or buyer or other realtor, other vendor is going to have their own profile page in the system here that looks just like this. It is going to be a hub for you to store all your information about this particular contact. Everything I just entered about Jane is on the left side of this page here under contact info. If I need to fill in any notes about her, I can do so in my main activity feed. This activity feed here is just going to be a log of all my interactions with this particular contact. So any interaction notes I have with her, I can just populate in this activity feed. So if I toss in a quick note, Jane reached out, interested, well, let's say, has a property she's looking to sell, need to call her for more details. I can put that in as a note, click Save Note on the bottom left corner, and that is going to drop right down into our feed. This note is just automatically date stamped and time stamped so I know when it was put into the CRM. This activity feed on her contact record as a seller that I'm working with is going to reflect my notes and updates about my interaction with this contact. So right now, all of this should feel pretty straightforward. We're not delving into the specific template yet. You're using the CRM at this point as a database to manage your interactions the same way you would in any other system. If you need to set up follow-up tasks and reminders, that can all be done on the left side of this page here under events and tasks. Any kind of reminders you want to create for yourself, I need to call Jane here, so I can set a task. Call Jane about property for today, hit create task, and that's going to set a little reminder for myself so that I know that I have an upcoming task with this particular contact. Again, if you guys have used the CRM before, if you've seen our beginner's guide videos, you've watched some of our other webinars, this should all feel pretty straightforward here. But if you want to talk more about the basic structure of the CRM outside of this template, we cover all of this basic structure too in our contact record in our regular webinars. So if you want to learn more about that, just sign up for some of our standard webinars or let us know and we can send you a link to a recorded one. But what makes this particular real estate template more powerful, however, are the types of customized pipelines that are on it. And this is what I'm going to focus on for today's webinar. So let's take a second here to look at how the current pipelines on this template are set up. So let me jump back to our presentation very quickly here. The pipelines in our template here, there are two of them. One of these pipelines are intended for you to track your buyers, and the second pipeline that we have in this template is to track your sellers. The process of selling a property is going to be very different from the process of buying a property, which is why we have two separate pipelines for them. Whenever you're approached by a potential buyer, you would attach the buyer pipeline to them to indicate that you're in the buying process with them. You're working with them on getting their property, getting a property purchased for them. And the same goes for your seller pipeline. This way, you can differentiate between your buyers and your sellers in the CRM. And if you have someone who's both buying and selling, you just attach both pipelines to them. What's more is that the custom fields on these pipelines, as you will see later on, will allow you to track specific pieces of information about the properties that these buyers and sellers have. And in essence, these pipeline items that you attach to your contacts can also represent the property itself. So let's go back to the CRM to see how this all plays out. So back to my seller here, Jane. Sorry, did I say she was a buyer or seller? I'm going to say that she's a seller here. So the seller pipeline is going to allow me to do a few things. So I'm going to attach the seller lead pipeline to her to indicate that she's potentially looking to sell a property she owns. That can be done on the top left corner of this page here. And that's going to be the second link down, seller lead. Just as a quick overview, pipelines are going to represent processes. So by attaching a seller lead pipeline to Jane, I'm indicating that she's going through a process of selling a property with me. So the first thing the CRM is going to ask me to do is to assign a status to Jane. And statuses here outline the steps that I go through with all of my sellers in order to get a property sold. These steps here are completely customizable. You can add your own steps. You can rename any of these steps. This structure here is just something that we mocked up based on our conversations with those in the real estate industry, but you can always change that if your workflow looks a little different. So first thing I'm going to do is, let's say I've spoken with her, we've just put the listing up. So I'm going to move her to the second stage, listed. This pipeline will also let me tell a bit more information about this property that she's trying to sell. So you can see I've got a bunch of other fields here. First off, priority just lets me indicate how much attention I should give this particular lead. Let's say she's a high priority new lead. I can put in a current best offer or final sale amount, but we just got it listed, so I don't know this information yet. I'll skip those two for now. But she told me she's looking to sell her property maybe start of next year. She wants it to be sold by the middle of January. So I'm going to throw in a date here, 14th January. This property address lets me indicate what property she's trying to sell. So let's go ahead and say 123 Main Street, St. Louis, Missouri 63111. As with every pipeline update that I do in the CRM, I can go ahead and add a note, a set of follow-up tasks for myself. This just lets me indicate how much attention and how much detail I want to put in about this particular property, as well as this lead in relation to this property. So I can put in a quick note here and I can say, spoke with Jane, has a 1-bed, 1-bath she's putting on the market. There we go. Now I can set a follow-up task. So let's say I need to do an inspection with her. What I can always do is I can set a task for myself for next Tuesday, follow up with Jane on scheduling inspection. Take that as a task and then go ahead and click Save Seller Lead. So this is going to attach the pipeline to Jane. This lets me know that she's first off interested in selling a property, and it lets me know that she's selling this particular property here, 123 Main Street in St. Louis, Missouri. It's going to give me more details about this property itself. I have all of these fields that lets me save information about this property right now. So if I want to see anything else about this particular property, if Jane calls in and she's telling me, hey, about 123 Main Street, what were some of the dates I gave you? What's the amount I'm looking at? If I need to pull up that detail, I can just hop into Jane's record in the CRM, go ahead and click on this little pipeline badge on her contact record, and that's going to pull up the details I entered about this particular property that Jane is looking to sell. So one thing that I want you guys to remember too is that this contact record information that I have saved on Jane on the left-hand side, this is information about Jane herself. So her address that I've got listed on the left-hand side is her own address, where she currently lives, her current phone number, all of that. The pipeline is representing the property that she's looking to sell. So all the information about the property that she's looking to sell should be saved on the pipeline badge. Information about Jane herself, my seller, should be saved in the contact record. That's the difference between the two here. So this way, now that I've got all of these badges saved in here, I can see my follow-up task just listed above. And also right in her activity feed, I can see exactly when I attach this pipeline to her, the property address, her priority, as well as this note about why she's currently moving through the seller pipeline that I've got mapped out. So let's say Jane approaches me too, and she says she's got multiple properties. If she has multiple properties with you, because we've already conceptually indicated that this pipeline badge here is the property, I just have to attach a second pipeline to her. So I'm going to move through this a little bit more quickly since we've already seen it one time. But Jane tells me I've got another property, 456 Main Street. I can go ahead and indicate that she's looking to sell another property just by clicking on Seller Lead again on the left-hand side. Pull up the same pop-up box you saw before, fill this in. Let's say I know this is 456 Main Street, St. Louis, Missouri 63111. And let's say with this particular property, I'm just following up with her, and she wants to sell this one middle of March. So let me throw that in there. This one's a little later. Middle of March, the 18th. Again, I can put in my numbers for the offers, final sale amount. I'll keep updating this as I get offers coming in from my buyers. Again, and also add a note or set a follow-up task. But for that, let me just go ahead and attach a priority and save the seller lead. This now creates a second badge on Jane's contact record that lets you know she's potentially selling two properties, 123 Main Street and 456 Main Street. And if I need to see details about any particular property, I'll just click on the relevant badges that I've got listed above the activity feed here. So that is a perspective of what you can see when you are pulling up a single contact, a single seller with multiple properties. Or if you are working in commercial real estate, maybe a single company with multiple properties you're looking to sell, these badges here can be attached to a company record or a contact record, depending on how you work. But let's say you want to pull up a list of all the properties you're working on at this moment. What you can do here is you can look up a seller lead report. You can access the list of all the properties you're looking to sell just by mousing over pipelines on your blue header bar. And from this drop-down menu, select the report you want to see. In this case, I want to see my seller lead report. This report here shows me every record that I have in the CRM that has a seller lead pipeline attached to them. You can see because Jane, my seller here, has 2 properties on sale, she's going to show up twice. Each property is represented as its own individual line item so that they're kept separate. What's valuable here is that all the custom fields I filled in, I can now filter by. Let's say, for example, I want to see a list of properties that have an ideal sale date sometime within the first few months of 2019. Let's imagine that these are the properties I want to focus on this week to get the advertising materials pushed out. What I can do to pull up those specific properties is I can just go to the top section of my report, this gray header bar, and filter this list just by clicking on filter by specific field. That's going to pull up a pop-up box, and I'm just going to tell the CRM, show me everyone from this drop-down menu here with an ideal sale date that is between, let's say, January 2019, the 1st of January to the end of May 2019. Throw that in there, click apply filter, and that's going to pull up my relevant records here. And in this case, I can see that both of Jane's properties, 123 and 456 Main Street, these are both properties that she's looking to sell in the first half of 2019. And therefore, if I need to send out any marketing materials to anybody, these are the properties I need to be creating that for. So if you can imagine, the more fields that you have, the more you can filter by later on. And we'll talk about some other common custom fields you could create to help you generate the types of reports you want. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and create another contact. Let's see what you can do if you have a buyer instead. So I'm going to once more click on add a new contact on the top right corner. Let's say we've got Sally and sally@gmail.com. Phone number, email address, again, basic information. I'm going to throw that in here. And again, this address here is her own. I'm going to skip that for now, just in the interest of time. Put in her own personal details. And let's say I know she's looking to buy a property with her husband, John. Once again, when I'm done, I just hit create contact on the bottom left corner. So the same way my contact, Jane, my seller, had her own contact record, Sally, my buyer, is also going to have her own contact record. I can put in all of her information in the contact info section on the left-hand side, and her activity feed will be a hub of data that I've stored about my interactions with her. But she's approached me and she told me she's interested in purchasing a property with her husband, John. So what I can do is I can indicate that they're interested in a specific property by attaching the buyer lead pipeline to them. So again, what we saw earlier was a seller lead pipeline. Now we're looking at the buyer lead pipeline. This lets me know that this is a potential buyer I'm working with. This pop-up box is going to look fairly similar. Again, the CRM is going to ask you to assign a status to this buyer first. This lets you know where in the purchase process you are with this particular potential buyer. As always, drop-down menu, completely customizable. So let's say we've just spoken with her. I'm following up with her now. So I'm going to move her to the second stage, following up. She is a medium priority potential buyer. I'm going to indicate that. And I can also indicate now these following custom fields I've put in. Lead source, the maximum purchase price she's willing to go for, her ideal closing date, and the property that she's looking at. So she told me she heard about this particular property through Zillow, and this property address is 345 Cherokee Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63111. Let's do a different one here. All right. And I know that the most she's willing to pay for this particular property is about $500,000. So I'm going to put that in as her max budget for this property. She's hoping to close this maybe end of the year. So let me put in a date there so I have a deadline for myself too. So December 31st, 2018. As with all my pipeline updates, of course, add a note, set a follow-up task. You've seen those two for now. Let me skip that and just hit save buyer lead. So what you have here is that the same way I could use these pipeline badges to indicate that a seller is selling some property, I can use these pipeline badges to indicate a property that a buyer is looking to purchase. So each of these pipeline items, again, they're going to represent the properties that a contact or a company that I have in my CRM is interested in or is looking to sell. And the same way a seller can potentially sell multiple properties that we saw earlier, you can also attach multiple pipelines to a buyer to indicate that they're looking at more than one property. So if I spoke to Sally and she told me there's another property down in Cherokee Street, I can just go ahead and attach a buyer lead pipeline to her one more time, go through the same motions to attach a second property to her that she's interested in purchasing. And now again, the nice thing about this buyer lead pipeline is you also have a separate report for that you can filter by. Let's say you want to see a list of all of your contacts that are interested in a specific property. What you can do here is you can just go to pipelines on the blue header bar. This time, instead of saying seller leads, I'm going to tell the CRM, show me my buyer leads. This shows me every potential buyer I have in the system, as well as the property they're interested in. I have property dates all listed here. Sorry, property addresses all listed here so that I know who's looking at what particular property. This report shows me potential buyers, and if someone, of course, is interested in multiple properties, they're also going to show up in this list multiple times. So now let's say I want to see a list of all of the buyers interested in the property that I just threw in there. Let's say 345 Cherokee Street. I want to see everyone interested in that particular property. So the same way I filtered my seller lead report, I can go to the top of my buyer lead report and use this gray header bar. I'm going to click on filter by specific field, but this time I want the CRM to only show me all the buyers who are interested in the property 456 Cherokee. Once I hit apply filter, oops, did I put in the right date? I said 345. My mistake there. So filter by specific field, and instead I'm going to put in property address. And let's put 345 Cherokee. That should hopefully pull up the right result here. There we go. Sally's going to pull up. So if I have more than one person, if I have another buyer in the CRM that has this buyer lead pipeline attached to them, and in their buyer lead pipeline, I indicated that they're interested in 345 Cherokee Street, that potential buyer is going to show up in this buyer lead report. So if I'm talking to the seller of 345 Cherokee Street and they're telling me, okay, how many offers do I currently have for my property? Who's interested in my property? I can just go into my buyer lead report, filter by this property address field to show me everyone in my system right now who is interested in this particular property. Once I have this filter turned on, I can see all the potential buyers for this particular property. So if I have a new offer on this property, I know exactly who I have to update with a phone call in here. So what we've covered here, just hopping back to our slides very quickly here, what we've covered here are just the standard pipelines that are customized for the real estate industry. We've talked about the buyer lead pipeline, the seller lead pipeline, and how you can use those to indicate properties that you attach onto potential buyers and sellers in the CRM. But as with everything about our CRM software, it can be customized a little bit further to better suit your needs. So one thing that can amp up your pipelines a little further based on what we've talked about with our team, with our users here, is that if you're in the residential real estate business, for example, you could add pipeline fields on both your buyer and seller pipelines for things like number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. That is going to help you track your property in a little more detail, and you can have some useful applications with your pipeline tracking in your reports as well. So let me quickly show you how to create these fields for yourself and how to make any changes to these pipelines that we just took a look at. So back to my CRM here. To make changes to any of your pipelines, buyers or sellers, you just want to go to settings on the top right corner, click on customize your pipelines, this fourth link down. In this case, I want to edit my seller pipeline to add these two fields in. So I'm going to click on edit underneath my seller lead pipeline. That takes me to my structure of my seller lead workflow that I've mapped out. You can see my status down the middle of the page. I can rename any of these statuses, delete them. I can drag and drop them if my process looks a little bit different. And if I need to create a new step in the workflow, I just go ahead and click on create a new status. But for me, for right now, the statuses all make sense. They match what I do. What I want to do is create custom fields. So custom fields, again, these are things about your property that you want to keep track of as you're moving through the selling or buying process with your particular lead. I've got information about best offer, sale amount, sale date, property address. I want to put in number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. So let me create those two fields. So custom field here for number of bedrooms. Again, this is going to be information about the property they're looking to sell. Number of bedrooms, and that's a number field. And we're throwing another one for a number of bathrooms. Make this a number field as well. So you can create as many of these fields as you want. If you can think of anything else that you want to track about a property, any special requests, any special information about this property, is this a vintage property? How long has it been on the market? Something like that. You can create more custom fields just down the left-hand side. Anything that you want to track about any of your properties here. You can edit any of the existing ones as well. If you don't need a particular field, just click on the little trash can icon to the right of it, and that will just delete it from the system. So now that we've got these fields in place, you'll see that when I go hop back to my list of sellers, I can now add even more information about the properties they're looking to sell. So if I go back to my seller lead report, so that's pipelines, seller leads on the main header bar here. Let's say with Jane, the property she's trying to sell here, 123 Main Street. I know it's a 2-bed, 2-bath. I can click on quick edit and I can now indicate number of bedrooms and number of bathrooms for her 123 Main Street property. So I know it's a 2-bed, 2-bath. I'll toss those two in. And I know the current offer, let's say, is $500,000. Know a little bit more about her. Let's say offer made. Current best offer is $500,000. That lets me save more information about one of Jade's particular property, 123 Main Street. Once I fill that in, I can just click on update this seller lead, and that's going to move her along my pipeline, lets me know that she's now in the offer made stage, and I can see her current best offer as well as the number of bedrooms and bathrooms this particular property has. Now, you can imagine that with more information about these properties, I can start to pull up some more detailed reports. Let's say I was on the phone with someone, a potential buyer, and they approached me and they said, I'm looking for something that has at least 1-bed, 2 bathrooms priced at less than $650,000. Now, what I can do is I can go to my seller lead report to see if I have any sellers that fit this particular criteria. So back on my seller lead report, back on this handy gray header bar here, I can start stacking some filters now. First off, I want to see all of my properties that have more than one bedroom. So I'm going to click on filter by specific field, well, one or more. So filter by specific field. From this drop down here, I'm going to tell the system, show me all the properties that people are looking to sell with more than one bedroom. Hit apply filter, that's going to pull up Jane's current property. But not only am I looking for something with more than one bedroom, I need something with 2 bathrooms. So I'm going to add another filter on top, filter by specific field. Again, you can keep stacking these filters if you want to generate even more specific sets of contacts. Number of bathrooms equals 2. Hit apply filter. Again, that pulls up Jane's record. So again, this is all looking very good now. So far, Jane has a property that fits the bedroom and bathroom criteria that this new potential buyer mentioned that they were interested in. Now I need to make sure that they are priced at less than $650,000. So Jane right now has this property that's available. I need to make sure that its offer right now, the best current offer, is less than $650,000 so they can bid a little higher. So filter by specific field. One more time, current best offer is less than $650,000. By filter, I've got 3 filters turned on and Jane still fits all of this criteria. So I can now report back to this buyer, I've got a property that you might be interested in. I've got a seller right now I can connect you to. Current best offer is less than your maximum purchase price. They have an ideal sale date that's coming up and it's a 2-bed, 2-bath. Are you interested in taking a look? I can connect you to the seller and we can go in for a showing. So now I have this property that I can present back to their buyer to let them know that I found a property within their range. So you can imagine that you can add even more filters on top of this. Sure, I've added 3 already, and that's quite a bit. You can imagine once you have a long list of properties that you have attached to your sellers, this list is going to help you kind of run through so you know who you're looking for. Another common filter that people run here is if you want to see all the properties with a specific zip code. You can filter by this property address to filter by a zip code here to show you all the properties you have located in a particular zip code. So by adding more custom fields for yourself, you can start to ramp up how you filter your reports to pull up even more specific buyers, sellers, and their properties. So another customization option with your pipeline fields here is, let's say you're more commercial, you sell commercial real estate. Instead of bedrooms and bathrooms, that doesn't really make sense in your case. That's kind of irrelevant. Your buyers are more interested in knowing the square footage of a commercial property they're looking to purchase. In this case, you would instead throw in a custom pipeline field for your buyer pipeline for square footage, and that can function very similarly to the bedroom bathroom field we created for our residential realtors. So just to quickly show you that again, back to the CRM here. This time, I'm just going to edit my buyer pipeline. So that is settings, customize your pipelines. I'm going to edit buyer just underneath the little section that I have in my custom pipelines page. And I'm going to throw in a custom field for desired square footage for this pipeline. So left side of the screen, create a custom field, desired square footage. Make this a number field and create this field. So this way I can now indicate for a particular buyer the square footage they are looking for. I can put that in the CRM. And you can imagine, instead of filtering by bedrooms and bathrooms as I did before, I can filter to see the square footage that these buyers are interested in and connect them to my sellers this way. I can go on about these custom pipeline fields all day, but I'm guessing right now you guys probably catch the drift here. Anything that you want to store about the property that a buyer or seller has or is interested in can be saved in the CRM in a pipeline via a pipeline field. By having a field for it on any pipeline, you can use the filter options to narrow down your list in your report to let you know who you should be following up with. The more fields you have, the more filter options you have. So those are your pipelines, those are your fields. Keep customizing them, keep playing around with them. Nothing that I've done here is set in stone. You can always make changes to this. This template, again, is just the starting point. You can always add more to it. And if you want to brainstorm some ideas about how to tailor these two pipelines to your own particular real estate business, just let us know. We're happy to schedule a one-on-one call to talk through how to get that specific customization set up. Now, the very last customization that I want to talk about here is with your groups. Groups in the system here, they're the CRM's way of tagging and labeling your contacts. We have default groups already set up with a real estate template for your past buyers and your sellers so that you can have them in their own subcategory. But these groups are great because they let you keep all your contacts in the CRM, but just keep them segmented out. You know that they're not your highest priority contacts because you've already followed up with them. They've made a purchase, they've sold it already. You don't have to keep track of them as aggressively. But you want to know who to send up your follow-up emails to, who to say, how'd you like your new property? How's your new home? This way, groups can let you pull up those lists. At the same time, you probably also have a list of interested buyers who know they're looking for something, but they don't have a specific property in mind yet. Groups are a great way to keep them all in one place to keep your marketing lists in a single section too. So what you could do in your in your CRM account is you can have a group for your potential buyers. To create a group for that, you just want to go to settings on your main header bar. And in this main settings page, just go ahead and click on groups, this third option in under customization options. This lets you go ahead and create a new group. I've got my two groups here, past buyers, past sellers, but I'm going to throw in a new group here called potential buyers. So these potential buyers are those who've expressed interest, but again, they don't have a specific property in mind that they're looking to purchase. And so you wouldn't be attaching the pipeline to them yet. But right now, they're just in this group. So I can now toss a whole bunch of contacts into this group. I can just go to find a contact on my main blue header bar, view my list of contacts, check off contacts down the left-hand side, and add them to a group from the bottom of this list. Add to a group potential buyers. And the key thing about using these groups to track your potential buyers is that if you want to send out any marketing materials, any kind of email newsletters, you can now use Less Annoying CRM's MailChimp integration with this group of potential buyers. If I have a newsletter that I like to send out every month to about all the hot new properties that are available for sale, for these potential buyers, a list like this is pretty valuable and will keep them reaching back out to you. Our integration with MailChimp lets you sync a group in the CRM over to a mailing list in MailChimp. So once you've collected your group of potential buyers in the system here, all you have to do is just go over to a MailChimp settings page. So settings, set up email marketing integration to set up the sync between Less Annoying CRM and MailChimp. And now every time a new potential buyer reaches out to you when they're not sure about what property they're looking to purchase, just go ahead and add them to your potential buyers group in the CRM. And that is going to automatically add them to your MailChimp list, and they'll get your next list of properties in their inbox once you send that out. And of course, once they become a proper lead of yours and would rather not receive these emails, you can either manually remove them from the CRM group or just take them off the list. And they can unsubscribe from those emails too. And that's going to remove them from your MailChimp list, from the CRM group, so that they no longer receive emails again. You don't end up spamming them too much. We have a specific webinar that talks about how our MailChimp integration works, as well as how you can use CRM for email marketing. So again, if you're interested in a webinar like that, go ahead and send us an email. Let us know you want to see this email marketing webinar. We can send that link to our recording to you, and you can take your time seeing how the system works with MailChimp. So, all right, we're running a little bit over time there. Sorry about that. We've covered a lot of ground here about how our real estate industry template works, how you can use it to track your buyers, your sellers via our pipelines, and how you can further customize these pipelines to add more information. Armed with more information, you can then generate very specific reports to let you know who needs to be followed up with and even connect your buyers and sellers within the system. Finally, we covered some basic ways that you can make use of email marketing with your CRM to continue warming up your leads. So again, if you want to know more about email marketing, send us an email. We'll send you a recording of that webinar. So I just want to take a quick second here to take a look to see if you have any questions that are coming in. I know Kelly has been following through on these, but let's see if there's anything you can take a closer look at. All right, it looks as though so far it's so good. Just so you know too, this webinar will be sent to you in the form of a recording at the end of it. Once I finish off this webinar here, you'll get an email from us with a link to rewatch this video. So if you want to share it with your team, rewatch it again, just go ahead and let us know. But just to cover some very common questions here, there is no additional charge to this template. We're always $10 per user per month. That includes all customer support and setup fees. There are no annual contracts. So if you want to try out this template, let us know. There is no charge to that. We can apply it to you so you can play around and see how this would look like for you. Our support hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on weekdays. We offer phone and email support. And over the weekend, if you have emails for us, just send that in. We don't have phone support over the weekends, but we do email back. Again, I'm going to stay on the line a little bit longer in case any questions come up at the end. But just to leave you guys with one other thing, we're a small business just like you. We're always looking to improve. We always have ways that we want to keep growing. So we want to get some feedback from you. You loved it. You hated this webinar. You learned something. You learned nothing. You learned everything. I'm going to post a link in the chat right now to a feedback form. And we'd be grateful if you could just let us know what you thought of this webinar. So just fill that in, let us know, and we'd be happy to see you guys soon. All right, so I have run a little bit over time. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. But again, I'm going to stay in the chat section. So if you have questions, go ahead and just post it in there. I'm going to hang around after the webinar. And thank you guys so much again for joining us. And I look forward to speaking with you guys soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.